Linda Wheels Martinez was refilling coffee cups at Mickey's Diner when businessman Bradley Crenshaw decided to ruin what had been, up until that moment, a perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The 43-year-old Army veteran moved efficiently between tables, her left sleeve pinned up where her arm had been amputated after an IED explosion in Baghdad 12 years earlier, serving breakfast to truckers and local workers who treated her with the casual respect she'd earned through months of reliable service and strong coffee. What Crenshaw, a real estate developer from the wealthy side of town who measured his importance by how poorly he could treat service workers, didn't realize was that the quiet 17-year-old in the corner booth wearing his JROTC uniform was about to give him a master class in what real courage actually looks like. "Excuse me, miss," Crenshaw called out, loud enough for the entire diner to hear, "could you get someone with 2 working hands to bring my eggs? I don't want to risk having my breakfast dropped on the floor by the local charity case." The diner went dead silent. Linda stopped mid-pour, the coffee pot trembling slightly in her remaining hand as 30 pairs of eyes turned to watch her reaction to an insult that crossed every line of basic human decency. "Sir, I've been serving tables for 18 months without dropping a single plate," Linda said quietly, her voice steady despite the humiliation burning in her cheeks. "But if you'd prefer another server, I can ask." "What I'd prefer," Crenshaw interrupted, pulling out his phone to record the interaction, "is for businesses to hire qualified employees instead of making customers feel uncomfortable by flaunting their disabilities for sympathy tips." The teenage boy in the corner booth had been quietly eating his pancakes and reviewing notes for his afternoon JROTC drill, but something in Crenshaw's tone made him look up with the kind of sharp attention that military training instills in young people who take their future service seriously. Cadet Tyler Washington, 17 years old and 3 months away from enlisting in the Army, studied the scene unfolding before him with growing outrage and a clarity of purpose that surprised even him. "Sir," Tyler said, standing up in his crisp JROTC uniform, "I think you need to apologize to Sergeant Martinez. Here's what most people don't understand about moments that define character: they happen fast, they happen when you're not prepared, and they reveal exactly who you really are when the social masks come off." Crenshaw turned toward the teenager with the kind of amused condescension that wealthy men reserve for children who dare to speak in adult conversations. "Son, this is between me and the staff. Why don't you sit down and finish your breakfast?" Tyler didn't sit down. Instead, he did something that would change the trajectory of everyone's afternoon. He snapped to attention with the kind of military bearing that transforms teenagers into soldiers. "Mr. Crenshaw, that woman lost her arm serving this country in Iraq. She earned the right to be treated with respect, not insulted by civilians who've never worn a uniform." The diner patrons began paying closer attention. Tyler wasn't just some mouthy teenager, he was speaking with the authority of someone who understood what service meant. "Kid, I don't know what military fantasy you're living in, but this is the real world. Disabled people need to accept their limitations instead of expecting special treatment." That's when Tyler made his first tactical decision, one that would demonstrate why some 17-year-olds are natural leaders while others are just marking time until adulthood. "Sergeant Martinez," Tyler said, using Linda's proper military rank, "what unit did you serve with in Iraq?" Linda looked confused but answered automatically. 3rd Infantry Division, 2nd Brigade Combat Team. FOB Liberty, Baghdad, 2011 to 2012. Tyler nodded with the kind of respect that comes from understanding military culture even before experiencing it personally. "Combat Engineer. Route Clearance. IED Detection and Disposal." The diner had gone completely quiet now, as people began to understand they were witnessing something more significant than a customer service dispute. Tyler turned back to Crenshaw with the kind of controlled intensity that separates soldiers from civilians. "Mr. Crenshaw, while you were developing shopping centers, Sergeant Martinez was driving ahead of convoys to clear roadside bombs so other soldiers could come home alive. She lost her arm saving lives. And you think that makes her unqualified to pour your coffee?" Now, here's where the story gets interesting, because Crenshaw made the classic mistake that bullies always make when confronted by someone who won't back down. He doubled down instead of backing off. "Look, kid, I appreciate the patriotic theater, but this woman is being paid to do a job. If she can't do it properly with one arm, she should find work that matches her capabilities. Tyler's jaw tightened, and everyone in the diner could see him making a decision that would either end his military career before it started or establish him as the kind of leader the army desperately needed. "Sir, with respect, you're wrong. And not just wrong, you're ignorant." Tyler pulled out his phone and began recording his own video. "My name is Cadet Tyler Washington, Central High School JROTC. In 3 months, I'll be shipping out to Fort Benning for basic training. I'm recording this because I want my future commanding officers to know the kind of veteran I hope to serve alongside." He turned the camera toward Linda, who was standing frozen behind the counter, uncertain whether to feel grateful or embarrassed by the attention. "This is Sergeant Linda Martinez, Iraq veteran, combat engineer, Purple Heart recipient. She's working as a waitress not because she can't do anything else, but because the same government that sent her to war didn't do enough to help her transition home." The camera swung back to Tyler. "Mr. Crenshaw here thinks Sergeant Martinez is unqualified to serve him breakfast. I think Mr. Crenshaw is unqualified to share the same country with people who sacrificed for his freedom." That's when things got really interesting, because Tyler's video was being live-streamed to his social media accounts, where his JROTC classmates, local veterans, and military families were watching a 17-year-old cadet take a public stand for military values. The second surprise came when Tyler's phone started buzzing with incoming calls and messages as his video began going viral in real time. But Tyler ignored the distractions and focused on the immediate situation. "Mr. Crenshaw, I'm going to give you one opportunity to do the right thing. Apologize to Sergeant Martinez, pay for your meal, and leave. Right now." Crenshaw laughed, but the sound carried an edge of nervousness as he noticed the other diner patrons watching the confrontation with growing hostility. "Son, you're way out of line. I'm a customer here, and I have rights." "Yes sir, you do have rights. Rights that were protected by people like Sergeant Martinez while you were home counting your money." Tyler stepped closer, and despite being 17 years old and 50 pounds lighter than Crenshaw, something in his bearing made the older man take a step back. "But rights come with responsibilities. And right now, your responsibility is to show basic human decency to a combat veteran who lost her arms serving this country." The third surprise came when Mickey Thompson, the diner's 70-year-old owner and a Vietnam veteran himself, emerged from the kitchen carrying a baseball bat and looking like he'd had enough of Bradley Crenshaw's attitude. "Crenshaw, you got 30 seconds to apologize to Linda and get out of my restaurant. After that, I'm calling the police and having you trespassed for harassing my employees." Crenshaw looked around the diner, suddenly realizing that his audience had turned entirely against him. Truckers, construction workers, and local business people were all glaring at him with the kind of unified disapproval that makes smart people reconsider their choices. "This is ridiculous. I'm the victim here." "No sir," Tyler said quietly, "Sergeant Martinez is the victim. You're just a bully who picked on the wrong person in front of the wrong witnesses." The fourth and final surprise came when Crenshaw's wife Margaret walked into the diner, having received a frantic call from a friend who'd seen Tyler's viral video. "Bradley, what in God's name are you doing?" Margaret Crenshaw was a school board member and community volunteer who'd built her reputation on charitable work and civic engagement. She took one look at the scene, her husband facing off against a teenager in uniform while a one-armed veteran stood humiliated behind the counter, and immediately understood that her family's social standing was about to become collateral damage. "Margaret, this kid is disrespecting me in front of Bradley, shut up. Right now." She turned to Linda with genuine embarrassment. "Ma'am, I'm Margaret Crenshaw. I want to apologize for my husband's behavior. There's no excuse for what he said to you." Then she faced Tyler, who was still standing at attention with his phone recording everything. "Young man, I don't know you, but thank you for standing up for what's right. Your parents should be proud." Crenshaw started to protest, but his wife cut him off with a look that suggested their conversation would continue at home. "Bradley, you're going to apologize to this woman immediately, and then we're leaving." And when we get home, you're going to explain to me how someone I married became the kind of person who insults disabled veterans." The apology, when it finally came, was mumbled and insincere, but it was witnessed by 30 people and recorded for posterity on Tyler's phone. After the Crenshaws left, Mickey Thompson approached Tyler's table with a fresh stack of pancakes and a cup of coffee. "Son, breakfast is on the house today. And every day until you ship out to basic training." Linda Martinez walked over with tears in her eyes and a smile that transformed her entire face. "Tyler, right? Thank you. I've been dealing with jerks like that for months, but nobody ever stood up before. Sergeant Martinez, where I come from, we don't let people disrespect our veterans. And we definitely don't let them disrespect combat veterans who sacrificed for their freedom." Tyler's phone was still buzzing with notifications as his video spread across social media platforms, earning thousands of shares and comments from veterans, active duty military, and civilians who were inspired by a teenager's courage to do what adults often won't. But Tyler wasn't thinking about viral fame or social media metrics. He was thinking about the lesson his JROTC instructor had taught about military values: respect, honor, courage, and the obligation to protect those who'd already given their service to protect others. 6 months later, Private Tyler Washington graduated from basic training and was assigned to Fort Hood, where his company commander had already heard the story of the JROTC cadet who'd stood up to a bully in defense of a disabled veteran. Tyler's video had become part of military leadership training, used as an example of how young soldiers should conduct themselves when military values conflict with civilian comfort. Linda Martinez continued working at Mickey's Diner, but her experience changed significantly after Tyler's intervention. The story had spread through the local community, and she found herself treated with the respect she'd always deserved but rarely received. More importantly, other veterans began stopping by the diner, creating an informal support network that helped her transition from military service to civilian success. And Bradley Crenshaw learned that in the age of social media, bullying disabled veterans comes with consequences that extend far beyond a single embarrassing afternoon. His business suffered, his social standing plummeted, and his wife enrolled him in sensitivity training that he described to friends as the most humiliating experience of my adult life. But Tyler Washington's real victory wasn't the public humiliation of a bully or the viral fame of his video. It was the moment when a 17-year-old cadet proved that courage isn't about age or rank or experience, it's about recognizing injustice and having the moral strength to take a stand, regardless of the personal cost.